Have you ever traveled someplace new, and especially like a park? If you go to a national park or even just a state park, and there will be maps. And you get those maps, you want to see, maybe where you want to hike, where you want to drive, where the trails are, and always on those maps, something that helps you decide where you're going to go in that park. They have little camera symbols here and there. We look for those camera symbols and they say, oh, this is a must-see. There must be a beautiful vista, a beautiful overlook that I need to go see. Now, my love for the ocean. I also have a love for the mountains, and we love to go to vacation in Maine. Now, pre-PK, pre-kids, we used to go to clear up. A couple of times we went up to the Acadia National Park. This is Cadillac Mountain. From the top of Cadillac Mountain, and you had both worlds, the best of both worlds. You have the highest point on the eastern coast in the United States is Cadillac Mountain, and it overlooks the beauty of the ocean. And from this viewpoint, you can, seems like, see forever. And you see the rocky mountaintop where the glaciers kind of have gone over and smoothed that off. It is just gorgeous. And one of the things that is nice about Cadillac Mountain also being the highest point, it is the first place to see the sunrise on the East Coast. And it just lights up on fire. And I didn't hike there. You can hike there, but we drove up. But it's nice to drive up in the early morning, in the darkness, so that you sit there and you wait, and you are never alone, waiting for the sun to peek out. It is beautiful, beautiful. Can you imagine that day? Jesus invited Peter, James, and John to go up to such a mountaintop, such a vista, such an overlook. Someone had said in his book, The Sunrise of Wonder, Michael Maine, he writes to his grandchildren, he says, if I could have waved a fairy grandfather's wand at your birth and wished upon you just one gift, it would not have been beauty or riches or a long life. It would have been the gift of wonder. The gift of wonder. He goes on to suggest that they set their sights not on success, but on wonder, that they should live with a sense of awe. Maybe that is what Jesus was trying to give as a gift to his disciples, that gift of awe, that glimpse of, no, not some scenic overlook, but the glimpse of himself, the glory of God that resounded, that lived within him, that was not visible in his humanity, but it was there because he is God. And he gave a glimpse of that to Peter, James, and John. The gift of him being transfigured. We call this Transfiguration Sunday, and that's a word, if you go to look that up in the dictionary, we don't even use it anymore. It gives reference to this biblical account. To be transfigured, Jesus was changed. He was transformed before their very sight. He looked different. He was radiant with glory. He was almost like he was the God that he is, fully God before them. And God wants to do that same transformational work in our own lives. But what a sight, what beauty, what awe. The mountain that he would have went to, it was probably Mount Tabor. We're going to take a look at that mountain. It could have been Mount Hermon, but from the 4th century, we believe that it was Mount Tabor. Can we have a look at that, Joe? That next mountain, Mount Tabor. This is where Jesus may have taken him, up to the top of this mountain. And from this mountain, you can see circling around, it is all plain. It is all level. And all of a sudden, there's just this hump that comes up out of the ground. Can you imagine being up there, looking out over? They probably weren't looking at the view. They were looking at Jesus. Jesus was the view. But you know, Peter loved it so much, he's like, hey, we're here, Jesus is here, Elijah's here, Moses is here, the great lawgiver, the great prophet. Let's just camp out here. This is wonderful. He loved seeing Jesus looking like that. And he said, I'll build shelters, I'll build tents, let's just stay here. But Jesus said, no, we have to travel back down. We have to go back down, and I named this to the valley, but it isn't really a valley when I got to the picture. It's a plain. It's just flat. You know, it's like Jesus was saying that my work isn't done. I need to go down and get to work. You have to go get to work with me. You have to go get to work with me. You know, we have mountaintop experiences. Thank you, Joe. When we worship God. I don't know, probably none at all compared to what Peter, James, and John experienced that day with Jesus. But there are times, and I think you come to church every Sunday morning because you want to experience God's presence in your life. You come from the mundane, you come from, your work week, you come from whatever has been going on in your lives, and you come here because God gives you hope. Because God is God. Because you might not see the radiance of God like they saw it on that mountain that day, but you know that's who Jesus is in the heavenlies. And you want him to reach down and to touch you. And you want somehow, as you're singing some hymn or praying some prayer, for him to touch you just like that and kind of light a little fire inside of you. We do sometimes have those moments. And I hope we experience those moments in worship. Sometimes it's even with our daily devotionals. It can be going to 365promises.com. Some of you have said you love those, and they're beautiful pictures there and has a verse or a promise for every day of the year. And on a daily basis, we can go and we can encounter God, and we can see God has a promise for us, and God is glorious, and God is in control of this world. God is in control of whatever situations in my life. And then, you know what? You have to go to work, or you have to go do this, or you have to go run an errand. It's like you've been on the mountaintop, you've heard a word from God, and then you get on with the routine. You come to church, you have your Sabbath day, but Monday morning comes and it's on with the weekly routine. We come to the mountain and then we go to the plain. We ebb and flow like that every day. And Jesus said to Peter, James, and John, you came to the mountain, but it's time to go down. I'm not done with my work here. And Jesus had his sights set on another mountain, that of Mount Calvary. That of the cross that he would die on. And this was just part of the journey there. We have come to that place. I feel like in a unique way this year, we have been looking at a series, Words to Live By, the promises of God. And those have given us words of hope, and I hope they have enlightened you and just been a really positive experience for you. But next week's Lent. And our series is Journey to the Cross. Journey to the Cross. And I don't expect it to be a downer of a series, but how do you talk about the cross without getting some kind of different feeling? How do you say, Jesus and his word, take up your cross and follow me? That's a word for the plains, not for the mountaintops. But Jesus says too, I have a work for you. It's time to come down from the mountain and to walk the plains, to walk with me as I walk toward the cross. I think I mentioned last week that we concluded our series on Words to Live By last week because sometimes I preach up to this week on whatever series, and then I jump into Lent and it's already a half a week into it. Ash Wednesday has come and gone. Some of us come to Ash Wednesday service and some of us don't. And, if I've lost Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I hit Sunday and it's the first Sunday in Lent and I haven't decided what I'm going to do for Lent, what special thing I'm going to do to observe Lent, I'm like, oh, it's the 5th day of Lent already and I haven't done anything. well, is it worth doing anything? I already missed the first day. Do you ever get there? Sometimes I do. And so we're starting a few days early to look towards Lent and to ask those questions. What do I want to do for Lent? What's going to be meaningful for me during this Lenten journey? I read an article just recently, and it said Lent has become a time of self-reflection, kind of inner reflection. What can I do to make me better? And it's not just kind of self-help, make me better, but God, what do you want to do in me? And what wrongs have I done, and how do you want to make that right in me? And those are all really, really good questions. But this article said that Lent didn't just necessarily start out to be that time of inner reflection, but to have like an outward focus, to be other focused. You take Jesus, his journey to the cross, it certainly wasn't about him. He was perfect already. He was without sin, but he took upon himself our sin. When he was journeying to the cross, he had a picture of you and me in his mind. He had the world in his mind and their salvation, our salvation. When Jesus journeyed to the cross, it was about others, not about himself. And so at Lent, what can we do to be other-focused? What would God have you do to be other-focused? You know, I really like some of the suggestions for Lent that is for me to give up something, for you to give up something, and it to help somebody else. For instance, if I would give up my cup of coffee first thing in the morning every day of Lent, I would take, those maybe 2 quarters that I would, if I perked my own, made my own, or if you buy your own, you're $1 or $2, and I would take that and I put it in my mission folder or in my Lenten folder or my Lenten envelope, and it would go to mission. Or if I eat out, one day a week I would not eat out for lunch. And I would take that money and I would give it to mission. Or it doesn't have to be about money, it can be about any of our resources. What about watching TV? Anybody do that? So you take 1 hour, maybe just even once a week, take 1 hour, one of your shows that you regularly watch and say, I'm not going to watch that during Lent. And instead, during that hour, I'm going to give that time to God. I'm going to visit a homebound person, volunteer at the nursing home, going to volunteer at the shelter, going to participate in a mission hub project and help out at the church in some project like that. But to give that time to another, to be other-focused. Teenagers at school, when your teachers be surprised if you kind of volunteered and said, hey, what extra thing can I help you with? And it has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with your homework, your assignments, but all about your teacher, about the other person. We talk about fasting in Lent, to give up something. Jesus sacrificed his life for us. It's our opportunity to sacrifice something. Sacrifice something. Whether it be a food, whether it be time, whether it be something you like to do, a hobby, whatever that resource is, you sacrifice it and give it to God and let him work through you to touch the life of another. Let us quietly reflect on that before we go to prayer. We ask you, God, what would you have us do this Lent? What would you have me do this Lent? In light of all that you've done for us, for me, what can I sacrifice? And how can I make that a gift to another?